I have quoted the following article from Rod Humble in a Sports Illustrated video games article, but it bears repeating. We have hotel jobs, retail jobs, hairdressing, salon, finance, regular white-collar jobs, all of that with progression out of the box, Humble explains, but we also ship with an entire career and job editor and creation tool so that you can make brand new jobs from scratch. So if you want to make a store that just sells balloons, you can do that. If you didn't guess already from my title, I just want to talk about hotels for a minute, because, well, entire expansion packs have been built around hotels, and one of my leading questions is, who are the hotels actually for? My name is Michael, and welcome back to Sovereign Gaming, where today we will be discussing and speculating, surprisingly, on tourism, hospitality, and a visitor system in Life by You. What makes this discussion so unexpected on my end is that I wouldn't expect hotels and tourism to be part of the base game. Rather, I would expect those kinds of features to be released in a future expansion pack, for example. In the past, EA had released expansion packs like The Sims 3 Island Paradise, where you can actually own and run resorts. In other iterations of this feature, normally you would just stay at a hotel, like in The Sims 1 and Sims 2, and I don't even think hotels exist in The Sims 4, but correct me if I'm wrong in the comments there. I say this because hotels actually require a bit of staff. In The Sims 3 Island Paradise, when you ran a resort, you could hire a front desk worker, a maintenance worker, a food stand worker, and a mixologist. Assuming that a similar employment structure would be applied to Life by You, you could safely assume that your hotel will need about 4 to 5 staff members to actually run the entire hotel operation. And of course, you would need to find a way to house your workforce as well, which is a concern that I covered in a previous video as well. My biggest question concerning tourism comes from me assuming that tourists will visit your town. Now, this is just an assumption, it is not an in-game fact. Personally, I don't imagine that Rod Humble and the Paradox team forgot that hotels need to be filled by paying guests, and therefore I feel like there may be some sort of way to get tourists to spawn. What would make the most sense to me at this time is that the way that tourists and visitors actually visit your town would be if they spawned in their own vehicles off the map or some way and then drove in. However, with that said, with the idea that tourists and visitors are actually visiting your town, then wouldn't we be able to directly control them? Furthermore, wouldn't they then require lives, jobs, and houses of their own in order to play them? And how many tourists or visitors would the game actually spawn at one time? Is that dependent on how touristy your town is? So right now, not only do you have to house the population that actually lives in your world, driving your economy forward, but now your town can swell with tourists who stay at hotels? I know that I'm asking a lot of questions, but I'm just trying to follow the marketing and the vision that has been given to us at this point in time. And to be honest, I can be very forgiving if the idea of tourists and visitors needs to be explained away as a game mechanic, such as having tourists randomly generated driving into your town from off-screen. In my opinion, that is totally forgivable and acceptable for players. In fact, I'm just impressed that Rod Humble even mentioned hotel jobs were in the base game, since tourism is a whole ecosystem in of itself, in my opinion. So let's just assume that tourists spawn off-screen with their own cars. Will the cars clip through other cars as they drive into town? Or does traffic behave normally like in real life, where you get swells of vehicular traffic during rush hour? Because that now brings in the challenges of managing traffic. In my opinion, the concept of hotels alone, along with many other features being promised in Life by You, cascades into so many questions about the scale of Life by You in its first release. But my leading question that I always have is, can Rod Humble and the Paradox team actually execute it? Sure, perhaps I'm really overthinking it when it comes to visitors needing their own lives and all that when they come to visit your town. But what Rod Humble and the Paradox team has marketed to us, the players, is that you'll be able to control anyone that visits. So that's kind of where I'm thinking that there might be some sort of a discrepancy. Sure, you might be able to control all of your residents that are living in your town and in your world, but to control tourists and to be able to switch to them on the fly might be something that we might see a limitation to. Again, I wouldn't be mad if that was the case, but it does pose a really good question here, like how do tourists actually function in the game? And will they even be playable at that? You see, it's fun for me to ask questions on what may come when it comes to Life by You, and the reason why these speculative videos are fun to make and discuss with you is that barely any information has been released so far about Life by You. Since late March, they haven't released any major media on what the game is really like. For example, a gameplay video on the world editor and what those capabilities are would be tremendously helpful in helping the consumer establish realistic expectations, or likewise a video on creating a human in depth. But for now, I will say that hotels and tourism is a huge undertaking to introduce in the first release or even in the base game. But if Rod Humble is promising that in high-profile interviews, then he's painting the expectations that players can have. I want to know what you think though. Do you think that influxes and effluxes of tourists and visitors will be yet another macro management element for players to contend with? Or am I just simply overthinking it? You're always more than welcome to share your thoughts in a comment below. And if you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe and like for more videos like this one. I just want to thank you again for watching, and I am super interested to hear what you have to think about hotels, tourism, and how to manage visitors in your Life by You game.